Hi, I'm Angela Wilder. Welcome back for another conversation. Today I have the joy of speaking with Amatullah Saleem.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks, Angela. Pleasure to see you again.
My pleasure. So we have so much to talk about today because you have such a phenomenal life, and I can't wait to get started. But first I want to find out, are you originally from Winston-Salem?
Yes, I was born in Winston-Salem. And my mother and father and grandmother. No, my grandmother is from Danville, North Carolina. But most of my family is from Winston-Salem.
Wow. Yes. Okay, so your roots are here in Winston-Salem,
yes.
And yet you have traveled all over the world.
Well, not all over the world, just Europe.
Okay, well, a great deal of it.
Yes.
A great deal of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the vehicle for much of your travels was dance and theater, yes?
Yes, that's true. That's true. When I left Winston with my grandmother in the 30s, we moved to DC, and then I moved to New York with my mom. And as a teenager living in New York, I saw a film called Cabin in the Sky.
Oh, yes.
And I saw dancers in the film. And it was the first time I realized people get paid to dance. It's a job, it's a profession.
Yes.
And I was one of those children who, I didn't know what I wanted to be. I didn't want to be a lawyer, a doctor, a teacher. But when I saw them dancing, I said, that's what I want to be. So that's kind of how I got started in dance as a professional dancer.
Yes. And so you started taking lessons. How did you develop as a dancer?
Well, the film was about Catherine Dunham.
Yes.
And I found out that Miss Dunham had recently opened a school on 43rd Street and Broadway in Manhattan. So I went over. At that time I was a teenager and we had part-time jobs in the summer. And I saved my money. And I went over to her school and I registered as a student. So I started with the training at the Catherine Dunham School.
Wow, you just started right off the bat with the best.
Well, the best, and at that time the only, because there weren't very many professional black dance teachers. I think there was Pearl Primus, who was an African dance teacher. And there had been a few others in Harlem, but they were not as renowned as Catherine Dunham.
Yes.
So I was privileged to have been able to go to her school because she is one of the few who actually created a dance technique. So that's what really interested me. And I'd never heard drums before, real drums.
Yes.
You know? I mean, I heard Desi Arnaz.
Sure.
And, you know,
yes.
But real African, or they were Haitian drums actually.
Okay.
So that fascinated me also.
Yes. I have a djembe. In fact, I have two.
Oh, okay.
So I connect with that. Wow. I don't know what it is. It's something about a drum.
Yes.
But the fact that drums are present in every culture.
Yes.
Also, so
Yes.
it's a universal thing.
It is, and particularly African drumming is very unique, and it's international.
Yes.
Really, in every part of the world you'll find, especially djembe. The djembe has really broadened the knowledge of drumming, African drumming.
Yes. So what was the first time that you left the United States to dance?
Oh, well, I stayed at the school, the Catherine Dunham School, for about 3 years. And during that time, her company that was traveling internationally would stop in on their way to Russia or China or Latin America, and they would tell us these fantastic stories about what happened to them in these foreign places. And we became fascinated with the stories. Also, at that time, it was really difficult for the black dancer to get jobs on Broadway and in variety shows and television. Television was just starting. So we were looking for another outlet. And when they said Europe, we said, oh, we want to go to Europe. So 2 friends of mine and I saved our money. And at first we were going on a regular steamer, but we didn't have that much money. So we looked for a less expensive way to go, and we found you could go on a cargo boat because cargo boats take passengers. So we paid our fare, and we were one of like 35 people on a cargo boat. It took us 14 days to get from New York to Naples. But it was interesting because you stopped at different ports, so you got a chance to see different sights, and you got a chance to experience the sea. The sea is absolutely, I can't even describe it. We were frightened to death because we'd never, we went on a boat up to Bear Mountains in the summertime in New York, but the sea was such a revolutionizing experience.
Yes.
So by the time we got to Naples, we were already changed. We were already different from what we had left, different people that, from what we left in New York. So that was my first trip and how I got started on my journey as a dancer.
And I'm curious to know, how were you treated as passengers on the ship?
Oh, royally.
Oh.
Yes, you had a wonderful time on the ship.
Wonderful.
Excellent meals. The sleeping quarters were just ordinary bunks kind of thing at that time. But we had a great time on the ship because you met all the other people. You knew everybody on the ship, you know, the other passengers. There were only 35 or 40. And we were able to get information. I remember we met this Italian guy, and he told us little bits like, when you get off the boat, when you get to Naples, because we had too many bags. Each of us had about 5 or 6 bags, suitcases. He said, when you guys get off the boat, you've got to watch your bags. Be careful, they're going to bum rush you. Because when they see you with all these bags, there's a couple maybe missing by the time you get to a taxi. So little things like that kind of cued us to be aware of things that we didn't know. In certain foods or certain places, they kind of warned us and prepared us because they saw that we were young and didn't really know what
green.
we did.
Wet behind the ears.
Wet behind the ears, exactly.
Yes.
So they helped us. They were very helpful.
Yes. And how long did you stay in Europe for that trip, your initial trip?
About 2 years, I think. Maybe a couple of years. We went to Naples, and from Naples to Rome.
Yes.
So the first couple of years were a little rough because it wasn't streets paved with gold as we thought. It was really kind of harrowing. But when you're young, you can do those kind of things. You know, you can run out of money, which is a fierce, frightful thing to do.
Right.
I would never do it again. But at that time, you could do it. People were kind. They were helpful. The Italians were very helpful to us. And you were so excited about being in Rome.
Yes.
Until you really didn't feel, I mean, it was awesome, really, but it's youth. When you're young, you can do so many things that really, and it becomes your life experience.
Yes.
You grow.
Yes.
We grew tremendously in those 2 years.
In what ways?
As knowing who you are, because until you leave the United States, you're just an American. Actually, we didn't even know what that meant until you get into a foreign country and you have your passport and you are classified as an American. And then as a Black American, that's another classification that we weren't aware of. People have seen the movies of Black stars, so they immediately think you're a star and you realize, no, I'm from Brooklyn, you know. But it was interesting to live in Rome And the first day I remember I decided I wanted to see the place where the Christians were eaten by the lions.
Ah, yes.
So I asked the guy in the hotel, how far is the Coliseum?
Yes.
He said, oh, just up the road a piece. I didn't know that meant a mile. So,
But you were a dancer, and you're young.
True.
So a mile, well, what's a mile?
oh, I wouldn't have done it had I known, no. And you're walking on cobblestones,
Yes,
you know,
yes.
so. And by the time I got there, it started raining.
Oh.
And when I got to the Coliseum, I was drenched from head to toe. My shoes were squeaking with water. And I was very disappointed because I didn't know that there were construction inside of the Coliseum. It wasn't
yes.
just a stadium. It was very different from my imagination.
Right.
But I was glad that I went. I saw it. And, you know, you read the Bible and you read these stories, and there you are standing looking at the Coliseum, you know, where the Christians were eaten by the lions.
Yes.
So it was very interesting to be in Naples. We made films. Our money ran out, so we were looking for jobs. And at that time, Cecil B. DeMille was making the Bible stories about Jesus Christ.
Okay.
Ben-Hur and
Did you do the Ten Commandments?
10 Commandments, right. And those films required thousands of
Cleopatra,
extras.
didn't he do? Did Cecil
What is it?
B. DeMille do Cleopatra?
Yes, Cleopatra, right. Mm-hmm. So we were able to get jobs working as extras in the films. So that was exciting to me. I'd never been in films before.
Yes.
So we were one of the thousands.
Yes,
You
but
know.
you were in it.
Yes, indeed. Rome was interesting. We got to go south. Our first contract was in Sardinia. So we had a long train ride with the sheep and the goats and the chickens and
That's like a real slice of life.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Very exciting.
And then when you came back to the States, then what path did your career take?
Well,
Because I know you have done so many phenomenal things.
right. Well, yes, I guess they are phenomenal. I came back at the time when people like Duke Ellington and Count Basie were appearing at the Apollo on 125th Street.
Yes.
And my dance teacher, by that time, there was no longer a Catherine Dunham studio, but the director of the studio, who was Civilla Fort, had her own studio, and she was married to a former tap dancer, a black guy who's, I can't remember, Buddy Phillips was a tap dancer.
Okay.
And he had connections with the Apollo Theater. And so his students, he trained us how to do jazz dancing. And we were able to perform at the Apollo with Count Basie.
Wow.
And with the Duke Ellington Orchestra. So when I came back that time, having had the background experience of dancing in Europe, it was easy for me to get into those kind of jobs. So that to me was a exciting experits to perform at the famous Apollo Theater.
Yes.
Yeah.
And do you have photographs from that era
Yes,
of yourself?
I do.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, I have to look and find it for
Oh,
you.
wonderful.
Yes, I have a photograph.
Excellent.
Yes.
Great. And so, how much of your life would you say you've spent on the stage?
Oh, actually, 25 or 30 years. That was my life. It really got to a point where I didn't want to perform anymore because I went back to Europe.
Okay.
And because when I came back that first time, those jobs were exciting, as I said, but that was just a short time. And I was always kind of politically aware, and I always say the more things changed, the more they were the same. So after a few months of being back in the United States, I really didn't want to stay here. And the first opportunity I got, I went back to Europe because I really, the life in Europe for an artist and
Yes.
for a Black person is much less strenuous on your nerves, on your existence as a human being, as an artist. And the Europeans, when they say an artist, there's a certain pride and class that goes with that. When you say you're an artist in New York or in the States, well, you're just another dancer or
Oh,
another.
poor you, huh?
Yeah. Do you have, where are you working? Do you have a job? Or, go get a real job. But in Europe, you felt more important as a person.
Yes.
And your life was less. How can I say? We don't realize the strain and stress of living in a country that is racist.
And
Until you leave it. Mm-hmm. When you leave it, you say, oh, wow, I don't have to worry about what color I am. In fact, people are running to you because you're a different color, not running away from you.
yes.
So to have that experience was very interesting and helped me to see myself differently, to see the value of the people that I'd left behind, how we had survived slavery and had been able to assimilate into a country that we loved. We loved the United States. Mm-hmm. But even though with all the pressures that we were under, we were Americans and we loved being Americans. But I had an opportunity to see there's another life.
Yes.
The world is huge. You can live anywhere you want to live and however you want to live. So it was very enriching for me to live in Europe those years.
So tell me a little more about, you said you were very politically aware. Mm-hmm. So how did that affect your life when you came back to the States? I mean, did that awareness turn into activism? Mm-hmm. And mm-hmm. how did that manifest itself?
Well, while in Europe, you work in theaters and restaurants, and many times standing in the wings, I remember talking to the waiters or who came from South Africa, or they came from Nigeria, or other countries, and you say, wow, what are you doing here? And they would say the same to you. And so you have a conversation and you realize, oh, this is a worldwide thing. Why people are trying to find a better life. You're not the only one. So that was interesting for me. So when I came back, I think the last time I came back was because I had, in airplane, waiting for airplanes, you always read Life magazine mm-hmm. or Essence magazine. And I kept up with what was going on. And I read about how Martin Luther King was going to do a march. And I don't think he hadn't done the march at that time, but about Texas, how the children were going to school with guns, being accompanied by soldiers and
like the
all
Little
these
Rock
things.
Nine.
Yes. And, mm-hmm. So I read about these things, and then I thought, oh, well, things are getting better. With racism is going away.
Yes.
And I was getting tired of being on the road. I loved it, but there comes a time when you get tired of unpacking your suitcase and living in all these different hotels and pensions, and you kind of long to have your own place.
Yes.
So that also with the fact that I thought life was getting better for Black people in the United States kind of caused me to want to go back home.
And then when you got back home?
Well, it was interesting. When I passed the Statue of Liberty, that last time I will never forget, I started crying.
Why?
Because I realized you're coming back into an atmosphere that is, very well what it is. See, I came back and forth before. I was young. I didn't really think about it too
Yes.
much. I'm just going to Europe, or I'm just going home to see mom. But on that last trip, I knew I would not go back to Europe anytime soon, and that I would have to go back into this atmosphere of white supremacy, because that's what it really is in this country. And you have to learn to live with that. And I had lived in Europe over 15 years outside of that. So that was kind of sad for me. But I like coming home to my family. Mm-hmm. I like coming back to my friends, because we are very unique, the African American. And we have experience in life that we're not Africans. We are African Americans.
Yes.
We have been a part of everything this country stands for. So it was good coming home in that sense, but it was a challenge. You see, when I said you live in Europe as an artist,
Yes.
that means you're a certain class. When you come back and you're a dancer or a singer or a musician, that's a whole different world that you have to live in. So in that sense, I was not too happy to come back. But at the same time, I was happy
Yes.
to come home.
Yes.
Because this is my home.
Yes.
So I had to make adjustments. Took me a while.
What were some of the adjustments that you had to make?
Well, instead of performing all of, by then I was 10 years older, mm-hmm. and I began to teach dance.
Oh.
So I taught at different places, and then I opened my own studio down in Soho before Soho was Soho.
Yes.
I rented. Well, in fact, a friend of mine was a painter, and he was moving out of his storefront. And he said, Amatullah, you want my storefront? Well, my name was Barbara at that time. He said, you want my storefront? And I said, yeah, John, I'll take the storefront. I took his storefront and I remodeled it and made it into a dance studio.
What a lucky, because it's like trying to find an apartment in New York. It's
Right.
impossible.
But at that time it wasn't.
Okay.
No, this was 80s, 70s, 80s. You could find it.
Oh, still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
So I moved into John's old studio, and he moved into a synagogue. They were
Oh, wow.
abandoning
Yes.
synagogues at that time.
Yes.
So he moved as an artist. That was great for him because he had space. So I stayed in New York as a entrepreneur, a dance teacher, and I opened my own studio, and I had students, training them. I had adults and children, and I became a teacher. That's when you become another level.
Yes.
Of dance.
Did you enjoy teaching as much as you did performing?
Oh yes, I love teaching. Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yes. Well, you actually begin to identify and are able to articulate what you have done to your own body, your own training. You must put that training on someone else. So you have to have another view of it. You have to know what the body will do and what it will not do, how not to harm it, how to work with children, how to work with older people, how to work with men, how to work with women. So you learn a different aspect of creation for the body, so to speak. So I really like teaching. And it was the first time I was able to take the denim technique that I had learned.
Yes.
I learned it because I wanted to dance. But here you have people learning it because they have arthritis, or because I actually worked at a salon on 57th Street with a woman who, I'm trying to remember her name. She handled mostly people who were skiing and had an accident, or they had an automobile accident because they were racing. Or,
yes. Or riding a motorcycle?
Yes. Yes, riding a motorcycle. So I learned a lot from, I can't remember her name, but it was a
so then it was used for
rehabilitation
yes,
kind of therapy.
Yes, yes.
So I learned therapy.
Yes.
And I was going to go back to school to be a therapist, but when I inquired, it would have taken another 4 years just to acquire the technique. And I really didn't feel I wanted to invest that much time. So I taught at my studio for a while, and then I got a letter from my uncle in Winston-Salem.
Okay.
Inviting me to come to Winston-Salem to be, the first job he offered me was, oh gosh, it wasn't the dance music specialist, but it was with the Arts Council.
Oh, yes.
And I turned it down because I didn't feel that I had the academic background to do that particular job. I knew I could do anything that was connected with dance, but I
Yes.
wasn't sure about the administration of it,
Yes.
of arts. Later on, I did take a course at NYU in arts administration, but at that time, no. Then I was offered a job. When I turned that down, he offered me another job as a dance music specialist. So I said, oh, I can do that.
Yes.
Yes, I'll take that. So that's when I decided to leave New York. And things were changing in New York. When a new mayor comes in or a new police department head comes in, everything shifts.
Yes.
So it was time. I lived near Chinatown. My studio was near Soho, what was going to be Soho.
Yes.
So the landlords were making rising rents, and the Chinese were moving in, buying up property.
Right.
So it was kind of difficult. My rent was going up in my studio, and it was time to go.
It's time to write a new chapter.
Yep, time to write a
And
new
speaking
chapter.
of writing new chapters, a little while back you said my name was Barbara at that time. So when did you change your name or adopt this name, and what does it mean?
Well, at that time, 70s, you had what I call the civil rights movement, right? I think that was part of the reason I came back, was the civil rights movement.
Okay.
And you had the SNCC and
Core.
what was it?
Core.
CORE, yes,
Yes.
SNCC and CORE and the Nation of Islam.
Yes.
And I had friends, especially a friend of mine whom I had known in Europe. I saw her in New York, and she said to me, "Oh, you got to come up to the temple." I had no idea what the temple was, and she kept after me, "Oh, you got to come to the temple in Amatullah." And I said, "Oh, okay, I know." And so one day I saw her on the street, and she was having a little problems, but she was different. Before, she used to be fabulously dressed, wigs, fabulous clothes, jewelry. And when I saw her, I didn't even know who she was. And she says, "It's me, Alberta, it's me." I said, "Oh, hi. What happened?" So she said, "Oh, I'm a member of the Nation of Islam." That meant nothing to me.
Right.
So we talked, and to make a long story short, she came to live with me for a while in my apartment. I was sharing an apartment with a young woman who was on tour with Harry Belafonte for 8 weeks. So I said, "You can come and stay with me for a while until she comes back." And when she came, I was shocked, because when I got up in the morning to fry my pork bacon
No.
and smoke my cigarette and have my glass of wine, she says, "Oh no, you shouldn't do that. You're ruining your body." Anyway, to make a long story short, she was a member of the Nation of Islam.
Yes.
And she said, "Oh, you got to come here, my Minister Malcolm." I had no idea who he was either. So I got tired of hearing her, and I said, "Okay, I'm going to go up there and stop her from badgering me." And I went one evening to the temple on 125th Street, and I heard Minister Malcolm X speak. And my life was different after that.
Wow.
I saw the whole world different after that. And shortly afterwards, I joined the Nation of Islam, and my name change came, first they give you the X. My name was Sister Barbara 21X. So
What's the significance of the 21?
there were 21 sisters in that particular mosque with the name Barbara. I was the 21st sister
Interesting.
named Barbara. Yes, there were different numbers depending on they were Jane or Mary. There may be Mary 5X or Mary 20X.
Yes.
So that was the significance. That's how my name change came. Later on in the 80s, we had another name change. We were offered the opportunity to change our names to a Muslim name. And by that time, we had studied enough. Actually, Minister Farrakhan thought that we knew enough about Islam to be able to choose a name that we would try to live up to. So that's when I changed my name to Amatullah Saleem. Amatullah means servant of God, and Saleem means peace or one who loves peace.
Oh, beautiful.
So that was my name change.
And is your purpose, having that name, do you feel a daily calling to live up to be that?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
You in fact, that when you choose a name, you have to choose one that you feel you're going to try to live up to.
Okay.
Or that fits your personality or your desire of who you want to be. Yes, it definitely, and it changes how people see you and how you see yourself.
How did it change? How did it change how you saw yourself?
Well, I began to see that some of the things that I had abandoned that my grandmother had taught me, because I was raised mostly by my grandmother, who was a good Christian woman and who taught me Christianity first. And I began to see, but as I grew older, you go away from Christianity. You don't want to abide by, you want to wear things off the shoulders, showing your body. You want to smoke cigarettes. You want to drink. You want to hang out.
Be fast.
Be
as we used to
fast.
say. Yeah,
Exactly. So I had moved away from Christianity. And then when I got into the Nation of Islam, it was easy because those were the same things that my grandmother taught me. So it wasn't that difficult. I began to, one of the first things you learn in the Nation is accept your own and be yourself. So you don't realize that you've been trying to be somebody else until you start to try to be yourself.
Well, that is really profound.
Yeah, well, it happens. You don't know it. You grow up conditioned, and you don't know you're conditioned. Everything you learn, your schooling, your religion, is conditioning you. And until you, and we don't hear it's interesting because in Europe, the countries are so close to each other, you know, they borrow from each other language and custom,
Yes.
Swiss, French, or Italian, Swiss. Here, we're so far from any other country, we don't absorb any culture from any other country. So we're kind of straight up Americans.
I think we also feel superior a lot of
unfortunately,
times
we have an arrogance
that we don't want to learn other languages and take from other cultures.
No.
Yes.
We don't respect other cultures as we should, and really appreciate it. It helps. Now, today, we have so many people coming from Mexico or Puerto Rico. In fact, New York changed because we have so many Haitians and Jamaicans and Puerto Ricans living in the Bronx, Brooklyn. It changed New York.
Yes.
And it changed the black neighborhoods, particularly because we learned to eat their food. We learned some of their habits of hugging each other or kissing each other or shaking hands with each other, touching each other, which we didn't do too much as straight up as a teenager. I might hold your hand, but we didn't think too much about touching each other.
Don't talk to strangers.
No,
Yes.
no. But when you associate with Latinos, you get a whole, and my partner in Europe was from Cuba.
Yes.
So I had a whole different experience of being with other people in other languages. And frankly, I'm happy that they came because we needed it. And I wish every American could go to another country and live there for 6 months.
I agree. I love to travel, and I think the best part of travel is the education you get, which really is that we are so much, even though we have different cultures, we are so much alike.
Yes.
We all want to be warm.
Yes.
We all want to be loved.
Yes.
We all want to see beautiful things and
And eat
have
good food.
wonderful experiences. Yes.
We do.
And that's universal.
Yes, it is. That's one of the good things about my trip to Europe. I didn't go on a vacation to stay 2 or 3 weeks. I had to live there. And in living there, I got to know the people in France, in Italy. And you're right. We're not very different.
No.
The masses of any country are very similar.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so true. And they love, the masses love, French people love American people. The people, not the politics.
Yes.
Not the corporate.
Yes.
But the masses of the people are similar. You're right, we want a good life.
Yes.
For ourselves, for our families. That's universal, you're right, absolutely. Yeah.
And these days, what are you doing now? I feel such a life force coming from you. What are you doing these days that keeps you emanating this great life force?
Well, I would have to say, well, 2 things. Number one is a dancer. You are trained to always aspire to be the best.
Yes.
So that carries you all through your life. You want to be the best. If you're going on stage with 50 people, you want people to look at you. So you have to perform to get them to do that. You have to be, and you acquire a kind of magnetism. A performing artist must have magnetism, and you learn how to do that with performance. The other aspect I would say is my teachings and training of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because that training and that teaching is to bring you closer to the creator of the universe and yourself. And the closer you can follow those teachings, which are really very simple. As I said, they're like my grandmother's teaching. You eat this or you don't eat that. You go here, you don't go there. You pray. All of these things are really quite natural to us if we just get back to that and stop being led somewhere else. Just get back to who you are. Because actually we are the original people of the planet. This is our planet. So once you get these lessons and you begin to realize that we are the children of God.
Yes.
We are the original man. We are the all of the other races, as they're finding out now, all of the other races came from us.
Yes.
So it gives you a different aspect of who you are, and that you own not just where you live, you own the planet. The planet belongs to your father. I mean, we're displaced at the moment, but that's time. Time dictates social and political and atmosphere of what is going on in the world. So we're now in a world that really you have to find your place. And once you find your place in it and know, oh, I am important. I am a child of God. I really am a child. I read it years ago in the Bible, but we didn't really think of it too much, but we really are.
Yes.
So once you get that feeling that you love yourself, first of all, who you are. And if you love yourself, then you love your fellow man. You're in the human family. So, I mean, I'm very happy to be who I am. And I learned to eat well, to eat proper food from Muhammad's book, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's book, How to Eat to Live. I've been eating like that now for over 30 years, 35 years. Certain foods, certain time of day. If you follow that and you follow his teaching of kindness and truth, above all truth, and the same teachings that Jesus taught.
Yes.
We love Jesus. Jesus was our brother. If we follow those teachings, not because somebody wrote it in a book and I read the book and so I'm going to follow this, but you have to internalize it. And once you begin to internalize it, it empowers you. So I think that's what you see. I hope that's it. At least that's what I'm striving for.
Yes, I think you're succeeding.
Oh,
Yes,
thank you.
yes. Thank you so much. This has been truly wonderful. Yes.
One more thing.
Oh, please.
This energy, you asked me what I'm doing today.
Yes.
Today I have moved back to my hometown, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And I moved into a neighborhood or community called Happy Hill.
Yes.
And I didn't realize that my grandfather raised my father out there on Wartown Street, Main Street. And that this was really where my family began. My grandfather lived there, my father lived there, my uncles lived there. And so I'm living here in Happy Hill. And once I moved here, bringing all of what we just talked about, who I am, into this atmosphere of a elderly woman, I can see things. And I see people around me, and I began to talk with them, and we began to exchange our identities. And I became, to make it short, I became the Happy Hill Neighborhood Association president.
Wonderful. So you're a wise woman and, yes, I'm sure, and a venerated leader and elder in the community. And I think that's one of the things our society is missing these days is the wisdom and the guidance and the experience of our elders.
This is true. We've kind of separated.
Well, we're a disposable society. We dispose of people just like we do soda cans, and it has real repercussions.
Yes, it does. I'm working now with young people in the community. In fact, we tried to start our organization, the neighborhood organization, and we realized that we have to get to the young people by getting to their children. So we started arts programs with children to garner the energy of their parents, really. That's really where we want to go. Because we can still have a very vibrant neighborhood, even though gentrification has hit us hard over here. But that's just momentary. That didn't take away your energy. That didn't take away your intelligence and your desire, your will. But the thing now is to get people to exercise their will. Not to just say, oh, okay, that's the way it is, that's the way it was, that's the way it's going to be. No, not necessarily.
Right. So it's about empowering people.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So that's kind of what I'm trying to do, empower people to take charge of their own lives and to make their lives better. Can be done.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for joining us on another conversation. We'll see you the next time.